Hi, welcome back to FutureFast. And once again, we have Machayya with us for the Future Friday episode. And thank you so much, Machayya. And for those of you who are here for the first time, so obviously you've missed catching up on his journey so far, which is amazing. And you must go there and catch up. And after that, I also urge you to listen to the second part of our conversation, where he talks about what he is currently busy with. Very exciting aspects, both from a e-commerce journey in the hyperlocal space, and also the efforts that are happening in the rural India, which is something you will surely find it interesting if you come from an urban part of the world, because this is not a traditional e-commerce as you're familiar with, where you order virtually without knowing where you're ordering from, or by looking at a brand and getting delivered by some unknown, perhaps immigrant, who delivers it to you at the door without you having to know, and perhaps only with the confidence that the app tells you that it is safe. This person is safe to deliver, which is a very different thing what you will hear there. So I urge you to look it up. That is if you have not heard. And now in this conversation, that's why I'll not indulge in introducing Machaya, because I would urge you to look up uh, and get a sense of who the person is. So Machaya, thank you so much for joining
Sure,
us. And
sure.
what does future mean to you? I'm just diving straight into the conversation.
As I was mentioning, with the AI becoming so much part of our life today, or at least scaring us that it is going to become a huge part of our life. As of today, it is scaring us. I think tomorrow will be a reality. It is it has become very difficult to really forecast the future, predict what it is going to be. Maybe 1 year back, it was a little easier job to at least predict what is going to happen 6 months from today. Even in my publishing, the success of publishing was whether a particular product would sell next year and year after next and things like that. Today, the whole thing is going for a toss. In publishing, for example, you may not require any textbooks at all. If ChatGPT and their likes have their way, then all that you need to do is ask questions. And probably you can also ask questions like, okay, I want this answer as, okay, there's a very famous book on physics, Resnick and Halliday, and most of physics people would have heard about this, Resnick Halliday, or Gamow physics, or Looney algebra, trigonometry, and things like that. So it can be that you don't need these books at all. Incidentally, I think Looney's algebra, trigonometry, those are the books that have been selling for over 100 years, over 100 years. And today, maybe, I have not tried it, but maybe you can actually go and ask ChatGPT or any AI, what will be the solution to this problem as Looney would have solved it, or as Resnick and Halliday would have solved it, or as XYZ professor would have solved it. So you don't even need the professor. You don't even need the professor, because AI can tell you how the professor would have solved it. It is scary uh, in some ways. It is
It's a good
also
thing in many ways.
it is a good thing in many ways, because you could be studying in a college with no faculty or bad faculty, in some rural areas, and you could actually get a solution to a problem that a professor in IIT or IIC or MIT or Oxford could solve it. You could say this problem would be solved by this professor like this. Then probably you could ask a question, that what made this professor answer or solve this problem like this, meaning what is the thought process that took place in the professor's mind. See, when you have a problem, the problem has
Or
got
why did they approach it in this manner
what is the
to
approach
have
it in this?
answered it in this way?
Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
you looked at the
And
problem in one way.
which may be also possible if the if the professor has published many other papers. So
Yes, yes,
then the I mean, any AI tool will say that, okay, this is what has been published, and
yes,
on this you can assess that this is the approach of the professor, and that's why
yes.
this kind of a response.
This professor is going to think like this, and therefore his solution is going to be this.
Right.
So if you look at it, then you don't need teachers. You don't need teachers. You don't need institutions. You don't need anything. You know, and you could be, you could do anything that you want. You could have the
R-
best knowledge. You could have the best
r-
resources.
See, we've had a gentleman called Srinivas who runs Vigyan Labs in Mysore.
Yeah,
So he was telling that when they hire people, they don't care what is the qualification. It's a software company.
yeah,
They don't worry about software engineers or anything because they hire them afresh and they train them there. So they're not really as bothered about whatever is their qualification anymore. So looking like that, and also we read somewhere, right? Most of these large corporations, also Google, Apple included, they have started hiring only for the skill and not for the certification.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely. You
so
even in a small company like ours, we look for attitude.
right.
You know,
So,
for us, especially in the rural
so no
areas,
more
attitude is
taking
the most
their degree
important thing.
certificates and filing them.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You know, so these are the critical things. And if AI, as it is coming today, can tell you what the person's attitude is, how the person is going to think, and you give them a problem, you can give a problem and say this relates
That
to
may
this.
become a little bad, right? See, we as human beings, our idea is that we make mistakes and we learn from it. But a
Yes.
machine will only see that we made a mistake. Not necessarily the machine will see that we learned something, so we will not repeat. Machine will only say that we made a mistake, so they're likely to make a mistake.
No, but next generation of AI, they will rectify the mistakes.
Well, that's the
They
expectation,
can
yes.
rectify the mistakes. They can say, look, this professor made this mistake such and such a time, but today's understanding is this is not the right way to approach things, and maybe you should consider doing these things this way. I mean, you're practically holding a seminar there. You know,
Right, right,
you're practically holding a seminar by one professor talking to another professor, and that professor is telling, no, this is not the way. You can also look at
right.
it this way. And you know, it's like one AI is the anchor there, and giving you the solutions.
Right, right.
In,
So, so
In fact,
at that,
one of the startups that have come to us, one of the startups that I'm not talking about it from my point of view, one of the startups that have come to us, okay, which they're just setting up a thing, it's called as Cross Taught, TAUGHT, Teach.
okay.
Okay, where there will be, where this AI is going to play a very, I can't divulge too much of the thing because it's still at the ideating stage, you know, and AI is going to play a massive role in that, massive role, because they also believe that a lot of teaching mechanisms and systems in place today uh, will become redundant, not in the far future, not even in the near future. And they're talking about it can become redundant next week. You know,
Oh,
it's that way.
yeah. Well, I'm aware of two startups that I'm in connect with. One
Yeah.
of them a lot more closely. One, they make videos using AI,
Wow.
and what they're talking about is that you want a product video for your company. How much will you spend on making a product video? Any idea? Do you have any idea, or approximately how much you think it costs?
It costs about 5 lakhs per minute.
You know what they're talking about?
They're talking maybe 100 rupees. Don't tell me that.
500 rupees. I'm not
Yeah.
joking.
That's a,
500 rupees. And they're talking about producing X number of videos in a day.
yeah.
In a day. So that's why, it's more like a factory, right?
Yes.
And
Assembly
you,
line production. You name the
right.
subject and we give it to you.
Yeah, and that's video. And
That's video.
another one, you're talking about publishing blogs. So they're talking about how many blogs do you want to publish in a day?
Yes.
In a day.
In a day. Yes.
so so I still have 7 in the draft. I've not finished my blogs,
I know,
right?
I know.
So, and
I
some
know
of them are running.
and those the blogs that they produce will be all SEO compliant and everything. So any search engine
Exactly,
anywhere will come on the
exactly.
top.
That's what he's saying. It's SEO compliant, so you don't have
Yes,
to worry about anything. And that
anything.
blog
Yes,
will get you more readers than what you will publish.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And they're
It'll go
talking
to,
about you can time how many you want to publish one blog an hour, you will have it. You want to
yeah.
publish one blog in every 30 minutes, you will have it.
And it is also linked to the backend metadata, so that whatever
Correct.
you're searching,
So it's
wherever
all
you're searching,
SEO
it is up.
compliant. You don't have to
Yes,
worry about what hashtag you need to do.
yes,
Everything is
nothing.
set. You just
Yeah, everything there. Yeah.
automate it, and that will also work in like this. Few
Yes,
hundred rupees. You subscribe to it, and it's not about having a battery of people doing it for you.
absolutely, absolutely. The whole issue of secondary journalism is gone, because
Right.
only the primary data will be important. From the
Right.
primary data onwards, the AI will take over. Absolutely. And especially in teaching, though, I think it's going to play. Uh, I don't know whether it's going to play havoc or it's going to play a major role. One of these two things is going to happen. Because time alone will say how much AI can solve a problem like a human being can solve. Because a human being also has empathy.
Right.
Like you ask me a solution to a problem, I look at you and say, look, this guy's understanding capacity is this, or his background is this, his language skills is this, his emotional skills is this. Therefore, I have to give him a solution that fits him properly. That's a good teacher's job. Okay. Anyway, such teachers are also missing. They've been missing for a couple of years now. I am not sure if AI can do that. But in future, if AI can also, because your complete data is in the system somewhere, and AI says, yes, I know this guy better than he knows himself. And I know if I give a solution, what level of solution he can understand. And the same problem is asked by another person. Depending upon that person, the AI can give a different solution. Just no human beings are required, because I need to understand what Nanjunda understands, and based on that, I have to talk. But AI can also understand what Nanjunda wants, maybe better than me, because all your data is there with the system, including what toothpaste you use in the morning, and what tape you use,
Right.
So, so that's the scary part of AI, where you don't need to uh, talk to people at all. And incidentally, that will be also the nice part in our cat code go and things like that, where we'll still talk to people. And, and people say, yeah, at least another human being is talking to me, not some machine. And then
No,
human beings understand.
no. Possibly, those conversations can also be handled by a machine tomorrow,
Yeah, it
right?
can be handled. It can be handled. Of course, it can be handled. Those conversations are handleable by machine even today.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
today. But
No, I mean, possibly you can use it. Uh, I think we need little more evolution in the technology to make it as effective in a regional tongue, right? Or multiple languages in a conversation, like how we use, right? Today, if you speak, perhaps there'll be a whole lot of English mixed, and then there'll be Kannada, and probably if you talk in the context of Coorg, there will also be one person, two people speaking. There will be some amount of
yeah,
Kodagu, some amount of English, and some amount of English.
yeah, yes,
So the machine will need to get a lot more mature to be able to have a conversation with multiple languages in a context to be able to respond. I think it will take little more time for sure.
yes, 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 yes.
So apart from AI, is there anything that bothers you or excites you from future point of view?
Yes. I think uh, like couple of years back, uh, when you know 1980s, early 1990s, where the IT took off. IT was a big thing. Then IT related to internet was a big thing. Related to cloud was a big thing. Uh, Related to blockchain became a big thing. I think the next big thing is agriculture. With or without AI, agriculture is going to be the next big thing. Limited resources, limited land, limited resources, and especially if you're talking about organic agriculture and all those things, it's going to be a massive thing.
Yeah. At other end, there are people talking about factory produced food, healthy food,
Yeah.
factory produced.
Yes.
So, we've crossed 8 billion people. So, why do you think agriculture is going to be a big thing? Why not factory produced healthy food is a big thing?
Yeah, because no matter what, I don't think with the best input from AI or anything, you can really match organically grown on soil food. I'm not sure whether it can match that. Number one. Number two is about the population. Okay, we are already
See,
at a point.
today they are lab growing brain cells.
I know.
So when we are lab growing brain cells, wha- 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 so future is perhaps in the lab. Why agriculture? I'm just
Yeah, no. I completely agree with that. There are two reasons for this. One is when you're talking about lab grown thing, um, you're also assuming that the population is going to continuously increase, which is not the case. I think the population levels will come down to the 1970s level in the next 70, 80 years. So by the end of the century, our population will stabilize at what it was in 1970s.
70s, but the
Yeah.
expectation is to touch 10 billion.
No, I don't. They are expecting to be a linear thing. In India, in fact, the bulk of the population, the growth rate is already below 2.1. In whole of Europe and most of the places, it is the thing. And if it goes below 2.1 globally, it is going to start reducing. And this reduction is expected to start by about in another 15, 20 years. So, which means by the end of the century, the population will drastically come down. When it comes down, there will be no need for industrially produced food. So agriculture is going to be the next big thing. Yes, maybe a part of that will come industrially produced. Maybe you'll have two types of food produced: normal food, soil produced. Like you are right now, you've got hydroponics and soil produced. Tomorrow you'll have soil produced, hydroponics, and industry produced.
And there are also air produced, things grown on air.
Yes. You know,
Right.
so
Well, one more thing I wanted to ask you that, see, I know you've been a runner, and there was a time you were talking about it that you don't think there'll be any more people running like this because traffic is increasing. I don't know if you remember
very
this
much.
conversation almost 20 years ago,
Yes,
we were talking about it.
yes,
But
yes.
on the contrary, while the traffic is obviously not quadrupled, I don't know what you hexapled, I mean, crazy, right? It just
Yeah,
exploded to X number of times, N number of times.
yes.
But there are running groups, there are running clubs, there are more people running, and people running everywhere. So, what do you think? Will running be still cooler in future?
I want to
I
ask.
still don't run.
No, I want you to go out at 6 o'clock in the morning and check out how many people in the 20s are running. You know, people
I should at least start walking for that. But yeah,
people in the 40s and 50s have joined running groups because the doctor told them to do it.
oh,
You know,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
this is not a healthy sign. Healthy sign is when an 18-year-old kid gets up in the morning and decides I'm getting up at 5 o'clock, 5:30, getting out of the house at 6 o'clock and running. That is not happening. That is not happening at all. Sports has taken a backbench in the urban areas. Total. I don't think that urban areas has produced any great sportsmen of any great standing in the last 10, 15 years. If you look at the hockey players, if you look at the
That's
football players, if
interesting.
you
Yeah,
look at the cricket players, they're all coming from small towns.
correct.
You know, Tendulkar was probably the last person who came from Mumbai city. big time. Otherwise, you see, they're all from, you look at the IPL thing, bulk of them are from small towns. In fact, many of their parents are daily wage workers. They have come up from there. In the rural areas, of course.
Well, I don't know if the example I'm going to cite will be any relevant, but see, I was having a conversation with an investor in Singapore.
Yeah.
Who invests in startups, and he was originally from Bangalore and moved to Singapore, and we were having a conversation after how is the startup ecosystem. I've been in this for a long time, so we just got started talking about it. Uh, and he keeps visiting Bangalore because his family is here and all that. But he said that I will never operate as an investor in Bangalore. I asked him why. Very, very interesting observation. He said that what, Bangalore is a great place to start because there is so much of good ideas happening there, and it's very difficult to meet somebody and not find that they are doing something interesting. In some sense, true, because see, today for me it's very difficult to meet some idea which I've heard it for the first time, because anything I
Mm.
listen to in the startup thing, I would have heard it already. Because
Yes.
I'm in this, I meet so many places,
Mm.
so I hear so many pitches that it's very rarely I feel like, oh wow, this is something unique. And that is a that's in some sense sounds very good to be right, but that is what he said is an oddity. Because you do anything and you'll think you meet somebody, they will say, oh, I've already heard it before, somebody else is doing. You take that out, that very idea, that very team out of Bangalore, put them
Yeah.
in a smaller town or put them anywhere else, you will find them doing something so unique that they will be so supercharged to build it big. And he says that even the poorest of ideas I see thriving are doing extremely well in some place in Jakarta or some place in Manila, because he actually invests across Southeast
Yes.
Asia. He says, see, funnily, great teams get killed in places like Bangalore because they always are looking around and there are people who are doing something more amazing, that they actually kill those ideas versus building on top of it. So perhaps, in the same context, what you're saying, that sportsmen are also getting killed. Great talents are getting killed here because there are so many good talent around that it's very difficult for you to come out in a place in an urban setup versus in a rural area. It's good talents are easy to spot because there are far few. Like how in good startup it's very difficult to find because there are so many good that even a good one gets killed or easy to be ignored in a place like Bangalore.
See, basically, I my early years we spent in my village, um, and we would walk to school, which was about a kilometer from my house. So by the time you reach a house to school or school to home, you know, you crossed maybe 200, 300 trees, and maybe you would have seen about 50 types of birds and eaten some 3 types of wild fruit on the way. And you have met a lot of people walking up and down. It actually built not only curiosity, it improved your health. It also enabled thinking. Okay. So you felt like running, you ran. Somebody wanted to felt like chasing you, they chased you and you ran. And poetry automatically came out of you because the trees were there, birds were there, everything was there, everything was nice. Now a kid in Bangalore, he goes to a school from his house. The school is at 9 o'clock and his house is somewhere at the outskirts. He leaves home at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's traveling 2 hours to reach his school. Okay. And in the 2 hours, he's not seeing anything. There is nothing to build creativity in him or her. There's nothing to build inquisitiveness, to experiment with something on the journey, either to the school or back from the school. Okay. There's absolutely nothing. They are very clear. I'm going to school now in the bus. If not anything, I'm going to either play some games in my mobile or I'm going to sleep, because there's nothing interesting going on outside. It's the same buildings, same roads, same traffic. There's nothing. Okay, you're going and you're coming. Nothing's happening. Uh, then you go to engineering. Well, the story repeats. You become a professional. The story repeats. A professional, it becomes worse because you all these flyovers and traffic jams and all those things. It becomes even worse. Where is anything going to come out of it? You expect people to get up in the morning and run? No chance. You expect people to be creative here? No chance. Yeah, they get ideas.
No, but see, I think this is one argument of perhaps our generation, like the previous generation, because we always see our starting points and we tend to be a little negative about the next generation. But see, look at there is interestingly a new series called The Last of Us. And what I found it interesting was that the whole series, it's very popular. I just started, I think I just saw first episode of it. But what I found it very interesting was that whole series, though it's so popular and all that, it is based on a game. It's based on an Xbox game or something like that. So, uh, uh, so I think curiosity, if people are curious, motivation can come from anywhere. Even
No,
even games, and there can be.
when it is coming from a game, okay? When it is coming from a game, your curiosity is coming from a game. That game can be a computer generated game also. So when it is coming from a system generated game or system generated another subsystem.
No, of course, somebody else created the game, but
Yeah,
that game
so,
led to writing the story, which
no.
is made it
What,
into
what
the
I'm telling you is
series, which is very interesting.
the root of your thinking, you know, the direction where your thinking is going to take you is predetermined by the game that you're working on.
See, not necessarily to think like that, right? See, why do we think only a tree or a bird or a river or a hill or a mountain or only uh, some sense of romance, if you will, or imagination? Why can't it be anything? I mean, we can be imagine. I mean, even buildings can motivate. There is a sense of architecture there, and even if it is boring, it is still there is something different, right? Or if you
No,
walk into something like IMB
when,
campus, it's all gray.
when you go to the very, very primal way, okay, when you see some water on the road, if you're barefoot and if you think it is reasonably clean, you want to put your leg into it. You want to go to a waterfall. Why is it? That is because when you see a hill, when you see water, when you see flowers, when you see birds, something else takes place inside you because you are a result of a million years of evolution which took place in that environment. What you're talking about, the buildings and the games and other systems, is a creation of last 200 years. Okay. When you look at the evolutionary scale, the last 200 years is nothing. It's not even a dot. It's not even a dot. And if you think that little dot can impress you to do something extraordinary, I don't think it's the right thing because
It
the
does,
other thing
right?
is huge.
It does, right? See, you
Yeah,
look at it. If you look at people whose personality is driven by communism, which is 200, 300 years old,
yeah.
there are some of the largest faith in the world is less than 1500-year old. Some go to 2000-year old. So, I mean, people go to war for this. People go and kill each other for this. So, I mean, it is natural, right? I mean, we are the product of our.
Let's look at communism. Okay, let's look at communism. Okay, let us look at any religious thing or dogmas or whatever. All these things, whether it is a communist feeling, a socialist feeling, or a religious feeling, you are looking, you're trying to reach a perfect situation, which is very, very utopian like. That perfect situation at the back of your head is that million years of evolution where you ran barefoot, where you didn't have any conditions. Oh, can I cross the road? Will I reach home now? Yeah, there was a little scare that the tiger might have eaten you on the way. Okay. But other than that, there's nothing much. So any system that we create, whether it is religion or system of socialism, communism, or any other isms, is basically to try and make you reach that past. Because that is the perfect system. You're telling, okay, industrial workers are there, they're being exploited. how do we stop exploiting? Why do we stop them being exploited? We want them to be not exploited because we believe that they can have a life that their great grandfathers had. A perfect
So,
life, a peaceful life.
how will this evolve to the future in your perspective then?
See, in my perspective, any future, any device, any methodology for creating the future, if it is not going to take you to the stage which was part of a system for over 1,000,000 years, is ultimately going to fail.
As in, what you're saying is that, see, we as human beings are always trying to do things to arrive at some point in future to feel the past.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, it's very defeatist as well, right? I mean,
That is the reason. That is the reason why I am telling you, industrially produced food will fail. Because a point of time will come when you want your food growing from the soil, because that is what you ate for the last 2 million years.
see,
From the
assuming this Earth's life is limited, and if humanity has to survive in some other planet, Mars or anywhere else in the universe, I mean, or perhaps another universe also, if you will. But only way today, in fact, astronauts survive is through factory produce, right? Those small tablets which gives you sufficient nutrition for your day or days. So why do you see no future of this?
no future of this, because as I said, in future the population is going to reduce. We are going to have the population what we had in 1960s and 70s, and that is going to be a stable population. That's going to be a stable population, and this is happening within the next 100 years. It is happening within the next 100 years. And you are going to be looking at your roots. You are going to look at your roots. Roots means, I'm not talking my root is my father. I'm talking about 10 generations before. You are going to look at that. You are going to look at a perfect system where you're going to be away from these tensions and all the systems, where everything is, you see, you are a part of the universe. You are a part of the tree, plant, everything. You want to cut yourself away from that, it is not going to happen. You can only pretend that you cut yourself away from that. You cannot cut yourself away. And you're going to feel comfortable only in that company, in that environment. You're not going to feel comfortable in any other environment. That I'm sure about it. And anything that you produce is probably, a sort of rebel that I can fight against the system. A system is not a democratic system or government system or something. When you say I can fight, you are saying I can fight against the system which nature is dictating. I can go against it. I'll produce my food. I'll produce my thing. I'll produce everything independent of that. End of the day, you have to go back there, because that's where you're going to feel comfortable. And any future design of the future which is not geared towards taking you back to that environment is going to fail at some point of time.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I'm getting 10 other things to drive this, but and continue with this conversation. But I have to, perhaps we will continue this conversation in another context. But if the audience or listeners if you like to have this conversation extended, please write to us, and I will jump back in and follow up with Machayya. He travels quite a bit as well, so we'll try to get him to do another conversation, uh, continuing with this. If not, I will anyway reach you. There is something else I have in mind that I want to take you from this conversation aspect. But thank you so much, and I hope you found this conversation as exciting as I did, for surely. And
Absolutely.
if you did enjoy this conversation, please go ahead and share it. And now I don't even have to tell you, if you have heard this far and if you have missed two other conversations with Machayya, then you know, and I'm sure you will go back and check the other two parts of the conversation that we've had with him. Having said that, enjoy the ride. And Machayya, once again, thank you so much for giving time and your perspective.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.